Welcome to the Elevating IT podcast. I'm your host, Mike Brooks, and I'm joined by Frank DiBenedetto, who is not my host, not my co-host. You're the host as well. So I mean, we're both hosts, right?
I'm a co-host. You still can't pronounce my last name though.
DiBenedetto.
See, you get nervous though.
It's a big name. It's a lot of letters.
It is a lot. There's a lot of vowels. As soon as you see the E's, I know you get nervous.
It's a scary name. I mean, first of all, it's got two capital letters in it, so that scares you right off, right?
Yep.
Like you gotta be better than everybody, Frank. You gotta have two capital letters in your last name.
You want to know a little secret too? Sometimes when people can't find me in like a database, or like how they're like, "What's your last name?" and I see that look on their face, like, "Oh, you're not in here." I go, see if they put a space between that E and the B, right? Because people go DE, and for some reason they think if there's a capital letter coming, you got to throw a space in there, like it's a sentence.
Yep.
And you go, oh, here you are, and I'm like, yeah, this isn't my first rodeo. So
yeah,
anyway,
how many times I've had my last name misspelled?
Never.
0. Like, your name is pronounced. The correct pronunciation is, Go ahead, do it for me.
DiBenedetto.
Is it DiBenedetto or DiBenedetto? I've heard you pronounce it DiBenedetto.
DiBenedetto.
But I've also heard you pronounce it DiBenedetto.
Well, right now I'm like, I think I'm overdoing it for your benefit. But if someone's like, "What's your name?" I say Frank DiBenedetto.
Right. Okay, kind of flows. But I've also heard you butcher other people's last names, especially, and I'm going to say this,
right,
if they're Italian last names.
I've butchered them?
Yeah, because you pronounce it kind of like an American Italian.
Oh, like mozzarella, like that kind of. Yeah, exactly. You're like, it's mozzarella. And I go, no, it's mozzarella or prosciutto.
Mozzarella. Gabagool.
Gabagool.
Right? Like I had to look up gabagool. I'm like, what is this? Sopranos did this, right? Like what's this gabagool thing they're talking about? Oh, it's Capicola.
Yeah, but we don't say that. You can't go into an Italian deli and order Capicola. They like ignore you. You just go on to somebody else. Yeah, maybe half a pound of the gabagool.
The gabagool. A gabagool. It sounds so awesome when you guys say it.
That's right.
So, Frank, we want to talk about some cool stuff today. Let's segue into away from our last names.
Okay.
And away from ethnic pronunciations of things into our topic today. And I want to coax you a little bit. You're kind of I've known you for a long time now. I got to know you in 2016, just before I joined your new company, Audit, which is what we both are here representing now. But you're an MSP, and you were an MSP at that time. And when I first met you, I think you were successful, but I don't know that you felt like you didn't want to be the poster child for Audit. Right. I remember we had these conversations because I'm like, you created this tool. When we go out on the road, you should be getting up on stage talking about how you sell with this thing. And we had conversations about you actually didn't want to be like a sales trainer. Remember that?
Right. I don't like the spotlight necessarily. Like I'm kind of a little more quiet. And, if someone thinks, I'm doing something right or successful, like I appreciate the recognition, but I don't really want to be on stage telling everybody like, here's how you're supposed to do it per se. But you've kind of drawn that out of me because I guess it's for the benefit of our, our followers, the community, our audit users to, share what's working for me and hopefully it works for them as well.
Right. Now, so in the beginning, I had a hard, me and you used to have those deep conversations about it, and you really pushed back. You didn't, because you were, and that's what I respected about you in the beginning. Like I've been in marketing for 20 years or more. And I've met a lot of what you will call really great minds who teach, and also really bad fake gurus, pretend experts. I mean, I've met a lot of fakers over the
Right.
years. And I'm sure this persists in every industry. In any industry, you have people who want to get up on a stage and they want to sell their information. And there's some really good ones in our industry who really walk the talk.
Sure.
Right? But there are some who talk the talk, and that's pretty much about it in probably every industry. And what I really respected about you is you really have a deep understanding of how to run a successful business and a successful MSP specifically, and now a successful company in audit. You know what it takes to be successful, and you've done it, but I had to drag you into the spotlight. Like, you weren't like, I made, and here's the thing in marketing, right? Like, people would learn how to market. They would go and market something, and then they would pretend they were a guru, and they would teach people how to do things they've never done themselves. Right. And you've seen it in the MSP industry, I'm sure. And you're not that person. And I always am attracted to those kinds of people like yourself who have done those things and can also teach those things, and are maybe a little apprehensive about teaching it because they don't look at themselves as, this.
Yeah, I think that the one thing that always has stuck in my mind is that line that says those who can do and those who can't teach. And I don't know if it's totally true, but like, I think you're alluding, sometimes there's people who want to push their knowledge onto you. And if you do the research, you find out that maybe their resume isn't exactly what you hoped it would be, right? Like, you kind of want to think that the person who's pushing some info to you has, like you said, walked the walk and has done that, has been successful. Sometimes that's true. Sometimes it's not, sometimes they're just good at talking. I'm more of like, you got to pull it out of me, then I'm going to push it to you. Right. So if you think that I've got something to share, and an audience gathers and they want to hear what I have to say, I'm happy to share. I also think that if you go back 4 years ago, maybe a little longer, audit was still more of an idea, right? There wasn't really a model for success with this type of tool in our industry. And it's exactly why I created it, because there was nothing else, right? I mean, I'm all about learning from other people's mistakes and following, like they say, success leaves clues. I'm not too proud to, do what somebody else did, and hopefully I have success as well. But in this case, I couldn't find anything. And what I had been sort of taught didn't work for me. And the more I asked around, it didn't work for other people as well. So in the beginning, when we had this kind of idea of creating a sales presentation tool, I didn't necessarily have all of the evidence, to present and say, listen, I tested this for 5 years and this is what it did. And, here's the growth. We didn't have that at first, right? So we kind of had to take a shot. I had to get out of my comfort zone, and I kind of had to push my ideas out there that were based more on what I thought would happen, right? And I did have some experience with it. It wasn't like we were brand new at doing it, but now, you fast forward now, and I think we have much more confidence, and I have more confidence, in kind of being that or playing the role that you wanted me to play back then, quite simply because I know that, there's hundreds and hundreds of MSPs that have, used audit to achieve, an amazing amount of success, and have made it so much easier to sell. And at the end of the day, I think about all those businesses that are benefited, right? Which is what we talk about, elevating IT. And so I feel like, we've done a good thing and we know it works. So I think that's the big differentiator between now and then. And you had respect for me back then. Now, I don't know if you still do or not, but
I have respect for you as a business owner.
Okay. Put an asterisk after that, right?
Right.
That's where it ends.
The reason I'm setting this up is because I wanted you to share a story, right? Like you and I were talking this week, and we talk regularly because we're working together, and you always share these cool stories about what you're doing in your MSP or what's happening. And it's not like you're going, hey, what we should do is we should go on to the podcast this week, or we should do a video and talk about this. You're just telling me these anecdotal things, almost like in passing, like, oh yeah, I had a prospect this week and this is what happened. I'm like, we've got to talk about this. Yeah. And I have a big picture. I want you to, this my wild plan of really getting you to just peel back the curtain and tell everybody here's where I was, here's all the struggles I've been through, here's how I did this, here's what my business looks like. Look inside and I know you're going to be, I'll phase you into that because I know that's going to be uncomfortable. But really, I'm here to tell people that this guy's the real deal. I don't want to pump you up too much and make you think I like you, but you run a really, really successful MSP. If I was running an MSP knowing what I know about you, I would just tell you, I'd be like, Frank, I'll do whatever you want me to do. I'll pay you. But I want to implement every system that you have the way you have it, because you are highly profitable. You have a great operation. So you don't have a ton of people, but you make probably more than somebody with maybe another MSP that may have a lot more employees than you. And you're doing a really good job. Every time I've been in your business, I know that, you guys aren't like, the phones aren't ringing off the hook. There aren't like, there isn't chaos being managed. It's like you have a well-oiled, well-run machine, and your per client, what they pay is highly profitable. And I think I want to get you to share that with people. Not today. Today, I want you to share the story that we talked about. You had a couple of prospects, and I want to segue into that and have you share that story with them, because I think it's important for a couple of reasons. Number one, and probably the most important reason, is if you lose a client today, it doesn't mean you lost a client. In my old business, I used to say, I'm going to keep marketing to you and keep trying to sell you until you buy, or you tell me to go away, or you pass away, right? Like until you're out of business or become my client, or tell me, like, if you bother me one more time, I'll call the police on you. I'm going to keep marketing to you, keep selling to you. And that's what I think a good business, a good strategy is. And that's why you had these success stories. So I wanted to have you share those with us.
Yeah, I think so. If you go back, again, in the beginning, when I started using audit to sell, and changed my my sales process up, my closing ratio is pretty high, and I don't attribute it all to audit, right? Marketing plays a good part of that. So, again, learning from people like Robin Robbins or Gary Pica or other programs that I've been in, have helped get me to a point where, when it comes to close the deal, it's kind of teed up. And then using audit is kind of like the silver bullet, right? I'm able to definitely close more deals using that process than ever before. But let's face it, it's not 100%. So not everybody says yes. And there's various reasons why. Sometimes maybe not the best fit. It could be my fault, didn't prospect well enough. Sometimes, maybe they can't afford it. And we can come up with 100 other excuses. But, you're never going to close everything. So now what I'm starting to see, and this is sort of, goes back to, what you had segued into, is that it's been long enough now where we're getting prospects that said no for whatever reason are coming back. And what's interesting is now getting the feedback from them, right? And finding out why they're back. Because, now you're in my head, of course. So the whole time I'm thinking, like, I have to report this back to Mike because he's going to figure out a way for us to discuss this. And I think it's valuable content for others to, to listen to and learn from. So what we're finding is that in the past, if you just gave them a proposal, the only thing they had to refer back to was just a number, right? You were the guy that was 2,000 and someone else was 3,000, and that's all you are. And they never have any idea about the value of the solution at all. But for us, in both of these cases, both of them specifically said that they wanted to use us. One was a cost issue. The other one was they had so much going on that they just felt like they couldn't devote the attention, and they grew. We can kind of get into more of the details. But regardless of the excuses, they both remembered us because of the presentation that we did, right? And because I'm sure we weren't the cheapest guy out there, and they looked at other ones, no doubt. But we were the one that stood out, right? And we talk about like being unique and having a presentation that wasn't overwhelming, didn't confuse them, and leaving something behind that they could look at. That's not the proposal, right? Because they don't understand it anyway. They're just gonna look at the number, right? So what I left behind was the audit report. And in one case, when I met with them, they actually had the audit report. They were like referring to it, which was pretty cool. And what was cool about it, they understood it, right? This is one, I don't know, this is well over a year because it was before COVID, right? So let's call it a year, and it's called 18 months maybe. It's 18 months later. The guy still is referring to the audit report, talking to me as though we had this conversation last week.
That's interesting.
Yeah. And I'm saying to myself, wow, I go, most people don't understand what I said the next day when I used to sell off the proposal and all the bits and the bytes. Now, this person's like, hey, this was read, and they understood it because there were infographics, and it was just a really cool experience to kind of go through it. So the windup is I closed the one deal already. That was a 12-person financial services firm, so a little smaller than what we shoot for, but that's our primary vertical. So I'm willing to go a little bit, smaller on that. That one's closed. Deal is ready to go. And I think we're onboarding them for May 1st. The other one was a 30-user company in the real estate industry. And now they have 50 people. And they're distributed. Plays perfectly into our solution stack, which is cloud-based. But they have now come back around. And it's interesting because they also have a need based off of cyber liability insurance, right? So they're trying to fill the apps out for renewals. And these insurance companies now are becoming a little bit smarter, or a lot more smarter, about asking those questions. Like, are you sure you have a firewall? Are you sure you're doing, security awareness training? Because, you just go down and go check, and here's your policy, right? Now they're basically making sure, and they're trying to vet these solutions. So again, they could have gone to anybody, probably others that are cheaper than us, and they came back around to us. So we had an initial call last week. We're going to be redoing a demo, and then re-proposing based around what their the new numbers are. But it was just interesting to experience that, because we didn't have that a couple of years back. I didn't really have people coming back to me yet, but now you're starting to see it. And we talked about that as a logical outcome, right? We said people are either going to buy right now from you, right, or they may buy later. And like you said, if they don't say flat out no, like, don't you ever contact me, I'm going to drip market to them, right? So there's a good chance that they come back. And if you have a presentation that was easy to understand and memorable, and you left this with them and not the proposal, which I never do, right, they'll come back to you. At a minimum, they'll come back to you for a proposal, right? Or they're hope they're gonna get the proposal next time around. But anyway, pretty cool stuff. I'm always learning as I go through this too. So I'm by no means the guru, and I love to kind of take the experience and figure out how we could do better.
Yeah, there's a lot to that, because you are still doing things, right? Like, you're not just going and removing them out of the system and going, okay, they're not a prospect anymore. Let me delete them out of audit. Let me delete them out of my database. You're marketing to them, and you've got that information. You're continually following up with them. Do you know if they came to you because, like what prompted them to come back? Did they maybe get a piece of marketing and go, you know what, I still got that audit report sitting here, let me take another look at that? Did they choose another MSP and they hate the person who who you lost the bid to, or like what?
The bigger one, the second one here, which is arguably the better opportunity from a revenue standpoint. We continue to send our newsletter and our tech tip postcards to. So it's more passive type stuff. It's easy, and like Robin talks about it all the time. You need to be able to keep your name in front of them in some way, because when the time comes when they're like, that's it, we've got to call somebody, who are they going to remember? They're going to remember seeing the Two River Tech logo because you just sent them a newsletter or something, right? So we just want to stay kind of in front of them somehow, not in an aggressive way, but just to keep reminding them we're out there. They did not use another MSP. They were the one that just thought that when we presented it to them and showed them all the things that were wrong, I think they felt a little overwhelmed that they might not have the time to be able to address all this stuff, right? So they thought they had 2 or 3 things wrong. I showed them they had 25 things wrong. Right. And and they were like, "Whoa, we better wait until a time where we could address it now." And they even admitted it. They're like, "We've done nothing. Like we're in worse shape now because we've grown, and there's a pandemic, and we've got people all distributed. They're going to shrink their office down to a real small footprint, so they're going to just kind of stay remote. They kind of realize they don't need a ton of space, or they're never all going to return to an office." Which is kind of cool. And, it's sort of what we had predicted would happen anyway. But, it works well for anybody selling cloud-based solutions, and it's kind of why the MSP industry, I think, is doing well because technology now more than ever is, being used as a business enabler, and people are embracing the fact that, you need to use this tech or you're going to fall behind, unless you want to return to an office. And, I wouldn't want to be long in corporate real estate right now because it doesn't look like people are racing back to the offices, but tech is replacing it. So
yeah, it's definitely going to be different. And we're starting to see the economy starting to open back up again a bit, and I think it has slowly. There've been these ups and downs, right, as you've been going through the pandemic, but we're starting to see a lot more. I know I'm talking to a lot more MSPs who are ramping things up again, who maybe were stuck for a while. Are you seeing that as well, where all of a sudden businesses are starting to contact you and look for help more?
Yeah, definitely. I think what we see is that the MSPs who didn't have a good strategy for their clients, the clients have like stuck with them for a while, but now they're at a point where they're kind of like, we've kind of had enough, right? And so we have been getting quite a few phone calls from prospects. They're not all great qualified ones for us, but the theme is the same, and it's usually that like they can't keep working the way they have been for the last year, right? And to me, that's amazing because this isn't like it's not like the cloud the cloud revolution started at the beginning, because of the pandemic, right? I mean, we've arguably been doing this for 10 years now since Hurricane Sandy for us, right? Like we learned then and said, we have to have a business continuity strategy for our clients, or the next time something happens, we're going to be that MSP that they're looking to replace because our solution didn't work. But now 10 years later, there's great solutions out there, yet a lot of MSPs haven't pushed that or provided it as a solution. So now their clients are looking, and I'd rather work with a prospect who has an MSP because they're already paying somebody monthly, right? So I don't have to fight that fight. When you get somebody who's never had an MSP, who doesn't pay monthly, and they're many times they're just looking for some break fix type work. They want you to fix something. We don't do that. So, we are seeing, unfortunately, some MSPs that probably aren't going to do well because they didn't have the right solution stack. And the ones that, have a good solution stack will continue to do well. But those small businesses have to go somewhere, right? They need help. They're going to go to somebody's MSP, right? So, why not yours?
Well, that's a great place to leave it for this week, Frank. I'm going to throw up here one thing before we leave. I do want to make sure we promote this event that we're going to be at. You're going to be speaking at ID Agents MVP Growth Fest. They're pushing like 1,000 people, I think, are registered for this. Wayne Gretzky is going to be the keynote speaker. It's going to be huge. If you haven't registered for it, get in on that now before they stop registration, because I think at some point they're going to fill up. Right. They're going to be at capacity. So definitely get in there. That's probably the first event. I think that's coming up in April, if I'm not mistaken. Just go to that website and you'll see. I can't click on it right now, but I'm pretty sure it's in April. Then we're going to be on the road, man. We're going back on the road, starting with boot camp, where we will be speaking and sponsoring at boot camp, and we've got more events coming up. We'll kind of announce those other events as they go.
Where it all began, right? 4 or 5 years ago. Robin's, I've been going to her boot camps.
2016, I believe you guys started. You launched audit at boot camp in 2016, because I came in that summer and went to Producers Club with you guys as part of audit. So exciting stuff. And I'm trying to coax Frank. I'm going to announce this to everybody so that you can't say no. so I'm going to announce it live, that I'm trying to get Frank, and this is just going to be for audit users. So if you're listening and you're an audit user, I want you to let me know if this would be something of interest to you. I'm going to get Frank to get on at least maybe bi-monthly, or I'd love for it to be weekly, where we do audit office hours, where you get you the MSP who uses audit, you get to come in and ask Frank anything you want about running your MSP. I'm going to get him to reveal all, tell all his secrets, and it's going to be great. So sorry to spring that on you, but
All right. Sounds good.
it'll be fun. It'll be
Keep me
fun.
posted.
So, yeah, I'll keep you posted on what you should be doing and where you should be showing up.
What to say. Yeah, tell me where to go.
Right. So for those of you interested in that, if you're an audit user, shoot me an email. You guys, if you're an audit user, you have my email, but it's mike@auditforit.com. And let me know if that would be of interest to you, and I will put it on by popular demand. So thanks for answering my questions today, Frank. I'm going to bring you back next week and put you through this again.
Sounds great, Mike. Always a pleasure. Have a great week, and Easter if you celebrate this weekend. Otherwise, enjoy the nice weekend. Today's Good Friday for those of us who do celebrate Easter. So enjoy.
Enjoy it, everybody, and keep on elevating IT.